Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay Today, sponsored by GayRealEstate.com. And we are here with return guest Amazin LêThị. How are you, Amazin?
Very well, thank you. Great to be back
I,
again.
I know it's great to see you. And I know it's always interesting because every time we get together, oftentimes we're exploring and talking about European and UK focused, especially sports related issues. But you've got a lot going on here in Atlanta coming up, correct?
I do. So I am part of the LGBTQ Institute Business Forum that's happening on the 10th of October, and you can still get tickets for that. And I'm moderating a sports and business panel, Changing the Game.
Wow, wow. And so I know a lot of it's a lot of great info is online, but it seems like they're very much focused on discussions that are bringing in LGBTQ inclusion, especially in this current political landscape. Are you going to be speaking on that, or will you have a bit of a twist on that?
Absolutely. I mean, we have Georgia equality involved, so we'll be looking from a legislative angle in terms of, states supporting LGBTQ inclusion. We'll also be discussing the 23 states that have banned trans kids from playing sports, but we have some other fantastic guests from the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Braves,
Wow.
talking about sports teams and sports in general in terms of their responsibility in champion LGBTQ inclusion in sports.
Well, that's often been your focus too, is not only just LGBT inclusion in sports, but also the lack of Asian representation with a lot of teams and so forth. Is that still at the forefront as well?
It is because when you look at American sports or any global sports from the West, we still see so few Asian representation. And then when you look at out Asian athletes, I can count the number on one hand. And, every single Western country, when you think of the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics, major sports events where they're sending, hundreds of athletes to different countries,
Yeah.
out of so many hundreds, you'll only find maybe 10 coming from ethnic minority groups. So it's still an issue when we talk about inclusion in sports. It's not just LGBTQ inclusion, but it's diversity in sports as well.
Yeah. No, I know that was a earlier this summer. There was a great article you were a part of that really touched on this exact topic when it came to FIFA and some of what they're dealing with.
Yes, absolutely. In terms of, talking about equality in sports, and they had these amazing armbands that looked at all different aspects of equality, but did not have LGBTQ equality. So when you're thinking about championing equality, you can't exclude the LGBTQ community because that's not discussing completely equality in sports.
Yeah. There's a lot happening. Yeah, it's probably a great time to be in the Atlanta area because, in fact, you and I were just talking that U.S. Soccer is bringing their headquarters there as well.
That's huge that US Soccer has just announced that they're bringing their headquarters and training center to Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta has always been the hub of sports,
Yeah.
but this really puts Atlanta on the map as, the heartbeats of sports. And I think, these conversations around changing the game in sports and LGBTQ equality and diversity and inclusion in sports at the LGBTQ Institute Business Forum is just so timely with the climate that we're in.
Yeah. No, I believe it was FIFA that was actually going to touch on and have a diversity workshop panel, the whole thing going on here in New Jersey coming up. But I believe that was canceled recently. So I think we're all staying tuned to see what might come up from because I know that that's top of mind with a lot of the folks involved with that.
I think for many sports organizations, they talk about diversity, inclusion in sports, but, words go so far. It's really in your actions in terms of, what policies are you putting in place? What does that journey look like for ethnic minority groups? How are you supporting LGBTQ athletes that are out? Or how are you creating safe and nurturing environments so if someone does come out what kind of support network does that look like for them.
Yeah. Anything exciting after this coming up between now and the end of the year?
I am working on a very big sports legacy project to launch in the US next year. I have it a little bit under wraps at the moment, but for me, you know, all eyes are on the LGBTQ Institute Business Forum. Like, that's my next big event, and it's just such a timely conversation in the climate that we are in, particularly around the whole issue around trans inclusion in sports.
No, I'm looking forward to paying attention to a lot of yours and other social media posts online as that happens next week and or in 2 weeks. But mostly, no, I'm just very much looking forward to continuing these conversations with you and being able to kind of keep your voice and the voices of LGBTQ athletes out there in the greater space here that we're on online.
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak to you and share my work with you.
Absolutely. Until the next time.
It feels good, so good.